If the colonists had lost the war, there probably wouldn't be a United States of America, period. A British victory in the Revolution probably would have prevented the colonists from settling into what is now the US Midwest. Additionally, there wouldn't have been a US war with Mexico in the 1840s, either. Q. Could the British have won the Revolutionary War? Yes, the British could have won the Revolutionary War, although later the British argued otherwise. Britain missed some golden opportunities to win the war before France allied with the Americans. The United States would never have become a world military powerhouse as it did. That would have remained the British's mantle to lose. North America would have been divided into British territories, Mexican territory, and French territory for the foreseeable future. What factors allowed the British to almost win the war in 1776? The British, with their greater numbers and superior training, overwhelmed the inexperienced Americans at New York and in other battles in 1776. America would be geographically smaller, with Mexico and Russia keeping big areas. If Britain had won the war, it would have succeeded in its aim to contain American expansion. The alliance with Tecumseh's Indian Confederation would have secured the western boundary of the US and held at roughly the Mississippi. The First Nations would remain sovereign and the US would be half its current size. Britain lost the war because General Washington had two other generals on his side. And the other general that Washington had on his side was General Atlantic, that is Atlantic Ocean. It took 2.5 months to cross the Atlantic by sail against the wind. The Treaty of Paris was signed 2 years later, on September 3, 1783, by representatives of King George III, including David Hartley and Richard Oswald, and the United States, including Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and John Jay, officially ending the conflict. If the British Empire never fell, there will be colonialism in the 21st century. In the scenario, nations that are once under British rule will not enjoy the benefits for leaving the British Empire. British America comprised the colonial territories of the British Empire in the Americas from 1607 to 1783. The use of English in the United States is a result of British colonization of the Americas. The first wave of English-speaking settlers arrived in North America during the early 17th century, followed by further migrations in the 18th and 19th centuries. Like the Romans, the British fought a variety of enemies. They also had the distinction of being defeated by a variety of enemies, including Americans, Russians, French, Native Americans, Africans, Afghans, Japanese and Germans. If anything, they would have only had a real presence in Ireland. If the UK wasn't an island, everything about European history as we know it would be different. Europe was already affected greatly by the tribes of Britain prior to the Romans arriving. By issuing the Declaration of Independence, adopted by the Continental Congress on July 4, 1776, the 13 American colonies severed their political connections to Great Britain. The declaration summarized the colonists' motivations for seeking independence. Was it a mistake for the British to use mercenaries to help them fight the war? Yes, it was a mistake for the British to hire mercenaries because they did not have the passion of the British soldiers. Having only been hired for money, they didn't care as much. There were several key factors contributing to the colonists' victory over the British, such as war tactics, strong leadership, and one solid alliance. Despite facing larger forces, better trained armies, and more weapons, the colonists managed to win.